Biden introduced his pick for Secretary of Defense today. Retired General Lloyd Austin formerly served as Vice Chief of Staff of the Army and has a long history of serving in combat zones. Biden spoke about Austin's barrier-breaking career. Take a listen.
Lloyd Austin met every single challenge with extraordinary skill and profound personal decency. He's the definition of duty, honor, country. And at every step, he challenged the institutions that he loves to grow more inclusive and more diverse. And if confirmed, he'll be the first African American at the helm of the Defense Department in well over 200 years. Another milestone.
Let's bring in Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz, also White House Correspondent Rachel Scott for more. Martha, you have known General Austin for years. What do you think he brings to the position here?
Well, he brings a love of the military, that's for certain, and military families. And when he spoke today, that's what he made very, very clear. That's where his heart is. He's been in uniform for 41 years. He graduated from West Point. I knew him in Iraq. He's had a lot of battlefield experience. He is loved by soldiers. He really is that old cliche a little bit of soldiers. That's who he thinks about. But he has a great intellect. He has great passion for his job. He is an impossible guy to get to sit down and talk about himself. So I think the power of his speech today, and clearly his background and the history-making potential here, means a great deal to Lloyd Austin. He was comfortably retired. He's on the board of Raytheon. He lives in the area here in the D.C. area. But he is a man for which duty means everything. And I'm sure when he got the call from Joe Biden, he promptly returned it and said, whatever you want, sir. He also, and Joe Biden talked about this a little bit today, Lloyd Austin knew Beau Biden. In fact, Beau Biden worked for him, with him, when he was in Iraq, that year he spent in Iraq. That clearly is where Joe Biden has a bond with Lloyd Austin. He saw him in war zones. He saw him as vice president when he was over there touring the battlefields. But it is likely that connection to Beau Biden, and apparently one they kept up after Beau Biden came home. Lloyd Austin stayed in touch with him, so I think that is meant a great deal to him. Lloyd Austin is also about the furthest thing you could get from a self-promoter. He doesn't really like to be interviewed. It really is like pulling teeth. And if you do interview him, which I've been fortunate enough to do several times, he always talks about others. That's us in 2011. In December 2011, when all U.S. forces were pulling out of Iraq, and General Austin oversaw that operation, and it was an incredibly complicated operation. There were 1 million pieces of equipment, and you're talking about armored personnel carriers and tanks and helicopters just like that one we're walking away from, and 50,000 soldiers, and he oversaw that withdrawal. But it was very poignant because Lloyd Austin was in on the initial assault into Iraq in 2003. Of course, after 2011, when we were all thinking it would be the last convoy out of there, the U.S. was back in there, as were others, to fight ISIS in 2014. And at the time, Lloyd Austin became CENTCOM commander, so he oversaw the same region, and during that period had some pretty tough questions about what had happened.
So, Martha, you were there with him as a military man, someone in the field. Rachel, kind of switching over to the political side of things, why are some Democrats so concerned about this nomination?
Right. So he retired fewer than 7 years ago, which means that he's going to need this special waiver from both the House and the Senate. Congress has done this 2 times before since this became a rule back in 1947. And one of those times was for Jim Mattis, of course, who President Trump nominated for Secretary of Defense. But at the time, our team has been tracking this. You had 17 Democrats who voted against that waiver for Mattis, who are now going to be in this political pretzel, if you will, having to explain why they they will now back it when Joe Biden is in the White House putting forth a nomination for this role. But on the other hand, you have some Democrats who are saying, hey, if we made this exception once for a white man who many deemed as qualified, why can't we make it for a black man who is now on the verge of making history?
And so, Martha, on the verge of making history, what do you think Lloyd's nomination says about Biden's strategy when it comes to the military right now?
Well, I think one of the things you heard President-elect Biden talk about was our allies, and talking about Lloyd Austin as not only a uniformed military officer, but also he said he's been a sort of diplomat. And frankly, when you're in the military at a senior level like that, you are a sort of diplomat. So he has experience there. Most of his experience is clearly in the Middle East. He will have to take on the world, but he is certainly capable of doing that. But I think bringing our allies back together, back in a way they can trust the United States again and really feel like an ally, because many of them in the past 4 years didn't quite feel that way. That is a priority of Joe Biden. Joe Biden also, he voted for the Iraq War, but that was a long, long time ago, and I don't think Joe Biden is the type of guy who wants to get in a lot of conflicts either, and will probably focus very much on counterterrorism operations rather than large operations, large conventional type wars. I mean, I don't think he's looking to start any, but that is the way Joe Biden thinks about foreign policy. But Joe Biden, we've all seen him. He is very good with people. Lloyd Austin, I think, on a one-on-one, as long as you don't have cameras in there, is very good with people as well, and he's well respected around the world. And you saw today how much this would mean to him to fill that position.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.